So let's go back into the Modify Report button up here. And so once it thinks itself through, it'll come back to our favorite report building screen here. And so again, we still have all of our different elements here. So what we want to work on now what we want to do is we want to work on some of our filters here. And what we can put into our filters, we can really put almost anything in our filters, but one of the main areas we're going to operate on our filters is called our level attributes. Remember, these are kind of the chart fields or the things that happen behind the scenes within PeopleSoft. When you think of PeopleSoft, like what's behind a department number. So some of the areas there's a lot of information in here. Quite a number of these items are solely for state reporting. They're just some attributes that relate to state reporting. So they're not really relevant to everyone, and you don't really need to know a whole lot of them. But ones I'm going to kind of highlight to you just right now, just some of the areas, and we're going to work on some, getting the quick reference guide. So don't have to write these down and memorize them today, but just some of the elements that we want to point out. So like our budget entity, this is where you can operate and say, if you're looking to see, okay, what's my E&G balances? Like, where am I operating on my E&G, or what's my auxiliaries doing, or how's my C&G doing? Like, those type of things there. So if you're looking for specific on your budget entity, this is one of the areas where you can see your budget entity. What might be more valuable to you is the fund code. I know a lot of people operate on that, and so you can see the fund code. This is where you can get into, all right, my fund 1001 dollars, my fund 1011, each of your individual funds. So if you wanted to filter on your fund, we have the fund code here. This could be relevant to a number of individuals. We have the DLIs behind some of these information. I know quite a few units do report on the DLIs. Like, if you're looking for your startup, your COVID-19 projects, any of these, you can see there's an infinite number of items on here. So if you're looking for reports on these, the DLIs can be a very valuable filter to be working on. Just going down the list here, another one I'm just going to point out right here is this SP_STD. Unfortunately, it's a state naming convention, but the reason I wanted to point this one out was if you're operating on the budget entity, this is more relevant to the local funds. If you're working with any of the local funds, we can sit there and see like the SGA budgets in here, athletics budgets in here, the technology fee budget, student financial aid. So there's different elements within here. So if you're looking for something more specific on like the local fees, this is where you would find the information on that. And so that's a way that you can either add these as filters, you can add these as like rows in your report. So that you can add all these things to the rows in the report, but just different elements that you can operate off of here. And then the other one I just want to point out is you can do it by VP org. So if you're looking for any information based on your VP org, the VP org attribute is in the system right now. We're working to add more elements in here. This is just the initial onset. So if you don't see something in here, I encourage you to provide feedback to your units. I know there's various options that are available out there to reach out. You can reach out. You can reach out directly to me. I'm happy to take any of the feedback on just random elements that you're looking for that we can work with FSS on what we'll call our future wish list into the system. But yeah, there's a ton of different elements that we can add to the system. If it's in PeopleSoft, it's most likely something we can bring in here at some point. So, but like I said, we'd love the feedback on this. All right, so. Yeah, like I said, it's a bit second nature to add the filters and the parameters, but once you start to do it, it becomes like riding a bicycle. When I was giving the presentation to my team, I ran through the steps a little too quickly because it was so second nature, and I didn't realize that it was one of those where like, oh, you do have to go through the steps. So what we'll do is, why don't we just operate? I don't think we have anyone from the College of Medicine on here, but. Let's operate with this budget entity. I know a lot of times fund will be a lot easier to operate for many of the units, but what we'll do is we'll just do a parameter on the budget entity. So what we want to do is, you can see where we have budget entity. We don't need to really expand it here. What we want to do is we just want to drag this into the filters. And so you can see it's just as simple as just dragging it into the filters. And then this is the important step that I want everyone to do. Once you drag it into the filters, this is the second nature step. Immediately take it out of the filters and drag it to the parameters. So now you can see it's in both places. Now, when you do that, you have to drag it from the filters. Like, I can't just take it from my level. I can't take the level attribute. Like, if I were to do this, it wouldn't let me actually do that. You have to drag it actually from the filters into the parameters. And what that little button on the right-hand side right there, shows me that there's a connection between these two. And that's where it's important, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to establish our filters and what is available within the filters. Was everyone able to do that step? This is an important one to understand. Okay, very good. So there's going to be another one that I want us to do, and actually, when I was going through this process, one thing I wanted this is probably another one that's available for use that I want to just point out here. It's called the carry forward levels. And so right now, what the system is smart enough to do is the system is smart enough to go through your departments and identify what your carry forward departments are versus what your, well, it's smart enough to know what your carry forward departments are. So your carry forward departments are numbered with this carry forward attribute. Your non-carry forward are called these uncategorized, because the system is not, unfortunately right now, it's just not smart enough to say, oh, if it's carry forward, if it's carry forward, it's carry forward. If it's not, then it's not. What it does is it just leaves this attribute blank. So this uncategorized is your non-carry forward item. And so that's just why I wanted to point that out. And this will be important real quick, because what we're going to do is let's go ahead and add the carry forward levels to the filters. And let's go ahead and bring it over as part of our parameters. Okay, so now we have these two items on here. I'm going to go ahead and run the report. You don't need to follow along if you want to run the report, but we're going to come right back to the screen here, because all I'm doing is I'm just going to run it because I want to show one specific item in here, and it's going to be two items within here. So you can see where our parameters have shown up. You can see up here on the top right, up here on the top left, our parameters are now showing up here. So we're still running wide open. And you can see all of the different options that we have here. So it shows every option that we have available to us within our budget entity. But you can see on carry forward, it only gives us the option to actually select the carry forward indicator. It doesn't give us the uncategorized option. So now what I want us to do, this is what I want to do to show how to modify the parameters. So this is where I'm going to go back to the modifier report. And what you can do, you can see on the parameters up here. So why don't we start with the carry forward levels? Remember, when we went into when I ran that report, you could only select the option of selecting carry forward. You actually couldn't select the option of not carry forward, of really what you're talking about, your operating units or your operating information for right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click this, and you can see right here where it says properties. Within the properties, now it gives us the options. You can see right here, the carry, remember I told you the uncategorized is the non-carry forward departments information. You can see it's unchecked. So what I can do is I can go ahead and check that now. And so now that I've checked that, and what I'm also going to do is, you can see I have it highlighted. You can just click it to highlight it. I can also set it as my initial choice. You see what I did there? And so what that will do is when we run the report, now the non-carry forward items are available. But also, we have the initial, we can also just set this as our initial choice. And since we set it as our initial choice, it will automatically default to not have the carry forward. So it will exclude all the carry forward items. And what you can do is you can modify the filters in there if you need to. But like right now, we're just setting this report just to default in here. Like I said, we don't need to worry too much about the data. I just wanted to show an example of how we can just default some of the data here. So we'll go ahead and click apply. And what I want to do is, just for the repetition, let's go into budget entity as well. And let's go ahead and right click the budget entity, and let's work on the properties here. Because I don't see anyone, I don't believe I see anyone from the College of Medicine here. So there's a couple elements on here that probably don't apply to your units. And so we can help clean up, you can use to clean up some of the reports that you may have within your units. Let's just say all you want to see are contracts and grants, auxiliaries, and E&G activity. You can go ahead and uncheck the areas that you don't need. So I went through and I'm unchecking our 000 items. Those are entities in the system that are a little bit different and really don't apply to the operating side of the budget. These are the local funds. So if you don't have local funds and you don't have to worry about the local funds, then you don't need to see them in your parameters. And then also the faculty practice plan, like I was saying, if you don't have anyone from the College of Medicine and no one's working with the faculty practice plan, then you don't really need those as an option to select in your report. So really all I'm limiting our report to is our E&G activities, our contracts and grants, and our auxiliary enterprises. So we can go ahead and click apply there. So what we can do now is we can go ahead and actually run this report. And so once the report runs, now you can see here our parameters up here, our filters that we had applied up here. So if you were paying attention before, now you can see since we got rid of the carry forward, our numbers have actually changed a little bit since we started the report. Because remember, when we selected the initial default as our uncategorized, so now it's not actually taking our carry, it's eliminating the carry forward numbers on our report right here. But what we can do here is let's go into the budget entity, because this is where I want to show you something right here. So we'll go into the budget entity, and let's just go into our education and general activities, E&G activities, 48900-100. We're operating off the budget entity. I'm just going to repeat it. You can do it with fund. You can really add any sort of parameters or filters that you're wanting in your report. But for this exercise, we're just going to go into the budget entity right there, our education and general activities. So once you see, once I selected that, this run report button highlights in orange. So our report doesn't automatically update. You actually have to go through and update it and highlight it in orange so that we can sit there and see and run the report. So once I run the report, now you can see even further. Now you can see our budget has changed even further. So now we're even looking at specifically here. We're looking now at a report that's showing our operating E&G activities.